So one other point, and the context being, I've no doubt you have closed hundreds of millions of dollars, and the wider picture notes in the billions. Um, I don't believe, from my experience, that the majority of people, whether they work for companies, many that even run companies, understand the anatomy of a deal, the thought that goes into it. Can you elaborate and just give us the anatomy of what is actually involved in doing a deal?
Yeah, I will. Think of it, the first, there has to be a pain point. There has to be a need at the prospect or suspect side. So somebody has to have a reason to go out and hit a website, or to fill in a web form, or to call up a company and say, hey, I see that you do this. And then it's nurturing that. That's a lead. So that lead comes in. Then you need to nurture that lead. You have to give it more information. You have to educate it. You have to explain why and you have to recognize that you have competition for this lead. You should know what your competition says when they're talking to people, or to prospects. And so you have to educate them. You have to educate that prospect, and you have to make sure that there's truly a buying cycle in place on that prospect side. There has to be a budget. There has to be a timing decision involved here. Like, hey, you know when they're gonna want to be able to use that budget. There has to be a decision maker that's going to be available to participate in this deal, and then you need to move it along so that they have a checklist, whether it be an RFI, request for information, an RFP, request for proposal. They've scoured their requirements, these user requirements. Like, you have to go through and make sure that they're comfortable with how you're going to address every one of their requirements, or address the vast majority of the requirements in the best possible way compared to your competitors. You need to create a unique selling experience for that buyer. You need to get them comfortable and trust you, right? People buy from people. People buy from people they like. People buy from people they trust. And you got to gain that trust. So as you're going through the sales cycle, you have to gain the trust. You have to show them legitimacy. You have to bring them um, customers like them, your customers that are like them, that will say, "Wow, I trusted this guy. I had this pain point. The company, the system solved got rid of that pain point for me." That's the anatomy of the deal. Now, factor in there, you also have to get through all the paperwork. You have to get through all the legalese. You have to get through the commercial terms. You have to get agreement on the commercial terms,
Security,
the
compliance.
security compliance nowadays. So you have to get, and this is one thing that happens often. You get ahead of yourself when you're selling a deal, and you don't get the IT guy at the prospect site to sign off on it that, yes, this meets all the security. It fits in, it's compatible with our solutions. Yes, we can do it. So you have to think for the buyer as the seller. You have to think for that buyer and tell them what they don't know. First thing I would ask somebody is, hey, have you ever bought a software solution like this before? Have you ever bought an enterprise solution like this before? Oh, no. Now my selling process is way different than what it would have been if, yeah, well, we just installed, a pretty big ERP system, or we just installed a big CRM system. It's probably a better example. Um, so yeah, so you need to make sure the buyer knows what that journey is. You have to define the buyer journey, and then match up your seller's journey with them. And that's the real anatomy of the deal. It's that pain point, making sure that there is a budget, making sure that there's a decision maker that's involved and ready to go, and that signing authority's there, and timing. Is there a clear timeline to get this thing done? Now you can work that deal and get that deal in.